Hey guys, today is going to be a pretty big discussion, and I want everybody to hear me out on this one. I feel like this topic isn't usually talked about, so today I felt like it was best to talk about it. Something I have been struggling with for a while, that I feel like is a very uncommon thing. And I feel like people should be more knowledgeable about is non-epileptic seizures. These types of seizures don't have this same exact, brain waves like as epileptic seizures. So typically people, like kids my age, I'm 16 years old. There's a lot of stereotypical thoughts and opinions about it, and because it isn't diagnosed as epileptic seizures, a lot of people think, oh, she's faking it, oh, it's not a real thing, like it's just she's making it up, it's all in her head. I can assure you 100% that if you are going through this, it is 110,000% not something that is your fault. You aren't making it up. You aren't crazy. You actually are going through it, but you will be okay. And I wanted to share my experiences with you guys about it because I feel like it'll really be a great way to educate people on this and a great way for everybody to know that you are valid and you will be heard. So here is my story. I wasn't doing well emotionally back in, I believe, the summer of 2020. And it was a very, very rough time, like obviously the pandemic going on and not being able to see my boyfriend for a while and some of my huge support systems I wasn't able to see for a while. No. The phone always falls. Anyway. But yeah, a huge amount of my support systems I wasn't able to be around. And I was very much struggling mentally with that. Just like everybody else, I don't think anybody was ready for this sudden separation from people. You know what I mean? People thrive on human interaction, and people who are already struggling with isolating from other people become even more introverted. And that was a huge issue, like a huge global issue. So with that, some traumatic experiences that I was going through with like losing friends, and I already had trust issues when it comes to friends. So like bullying and stuff like that. I was really struggling with that, and I lost people who I thought were best friends of mine, which clearly they weren't by the way that they treated me. So during that time period, I was at my low. I was very much going through a lot of like depression and feeling really, really shitty. And my anxiety was at its peak. I was just in general very out of it. Like my body was just like, I've had enough, stuff like that. I've had enough. And with losing people and COVID, I was just done with like everything. So then, while I was trying to get help with that, reaching out and getting help with everything being chaotic, I just one night was, I was fine. Crazy things were happening. But I was trying to keep my cool. Sudden, I just randomly felt really lightheaded, really dizzy, like the whole room was spinning. And I remember losing my balance, and I had fallen, and my mom had tried to catch me, and I just blacked out. I didn't know what happened until afterwards. And when I woke up, my speech was slurred, and it was hard for me to walk. So I was very, very scared. At some points in time, I didn't even know who was talking to me, what was going on. I was having like brief memory loss and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm like holding my phone up with my chair. And it was very, very scary. And it would be scary for anybody to experience. Like, I literally, like, at the time, I thought I was dying or some shit. And, originally, people were questioning, because I just had went on a new medication, so people were questioning if that was a factor. And it wasn't. Obviously, at the time, it didn't seem like seizures. It just seemed like sudden blackouts. But, I mean, seizures can look like anything, whether it be epileptic or not. Some people can just stare off. Some people will have convulsions. You know, it could just be anything. They all come in different forms. So, it happened that one time, just that day. So we thought maybe it was just low blood sugar as well, because I struggle with low blood sugar. So, I'm also lactose intolerant, so I get very sick sometimes when I eat certain foods. And, my weight was like, I weighed a lot, so I was overweight at the time. And so the next following day, I was having them over again. So then I went to Saratoga Hospital. And from there, they shipped me to Albany Med, which is a pretty big hospital where they can further treat you. I was ambulanced, and very, very scary. I had to talk to a neurologist, and being in hospitals is a huge trigger for me. So I was having, like, seizure after seizure after seizure, which was good in a way because the doctors could view it and they could figure out what was going on. So I kept having, like, people are yelling. It's not at my house, though. So I was having, like, CAT scans and stuff like that. I had, like, a 15-minute EEG, which obviously isn't going to tell much. It's a short EEG, and eventually I had to end up getting a 24-hour EEG, which I'll get to that. But when I was there, like, basically, I don't even know, till like 3 a.m. I was able to get released, which was just freaking annoying as hell. So I ended up, one time I was just laying down, having a seizure, I guess. And I got pinched on my arm by the neurologist, and it woke me up. And I immediately got bruised because he had to pinch me really hard to try to see if it was epilepsy. It would just run its course. You know what I mean? So then he immediately said, based on your diagnosis with PTSD, depression, and anxiety, it could be related to pseudogenic seizures, or PNES. So I was like, what the frig is that? Like, what is that? And he just explained to me that there is a difference between epileptic seizures and non-epileptic seizures, but PNES is a real diagnosis. It's a real thing. And I mean, you can look it up. It's a real thing. But it's caused typically from trauma. And frequently I would have them in school because, and well, I mean, I don't even know really, but it makes sense in a way because even if I was having a good day, I would still have them, but still being in that school setting, in that atmosphere after being bullied for like so long, and just going through traumatic experiences in school, whether it be like, self-harm or just isolating or just eating lunch in the bathroom. I was scared. My body was scared without my brain even realizing it. And it was like my body took control of my brain. My body had that defense mechanism, that reaction, and my brain was trying to figure it out. So it's all linked together, basically. It kept getting worse. Um, and I got that 24-hour EEG. I went back to Albany Med. I have a doctor that I see there, a neurologist. And they ordered a 24-hour EEG. And they saw that it is documented that there was irregular movement, but it is non-electrical. With movement like that, and I mean, there's proven that with brain scans, you can see gray matter, which is a form of a mental illness. Because the brain, when you have that chemical imbalance in your brain, it is a lot different from the regular brain. But we figured out that I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't imagining things, that it wasn't, because I mean, I thought that it was like weird ass panic attacks. I thought it was like some anxiety related thing, which it kind of is, but it's more severe. And it's still considered a disability when it comes to driving. So I can't drive, and I'm 16, and they have to be in remission for like over a year or something. But it's also, as much as it sucked to go through it, and right now I haven't had them in 13 days, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm very proud of myself, although it isn't fully under my control. I mean, I can't control what my body does. Sometimes I'll be upset and have them, and most times I would be fine, and I would just be like, So it just runs its course. It got so bad to the point where pinching or I couldn't even feel anything when I was having them. Physical stimulation, I could not feel anything. They did the sternal rub on my chest to try to get me out of it, and I couldn't. It got to the point where the nurse had to like follow me around and shit in school because I was always having seizures. I got sent home a few times because I just could not take the atmosphere. The school actually has a protocol now for when I have seizures because they were so frequent. You know how kids typically leave the room, and that only happened once. But to make me feel more comfortable, kids pretend like they don't notice it. Which in a way, and I described this to somebody, and I'll describe it to you because it is accurate. And I'm sure many of you who go through this feel this way, and I want to share how I feel. This is all about how I felt. So I was once asked by a friend, when you say you don't feel normal, what do you mean? And I said, when you're sitting in a classroom of people and everybody's working on assignments and everyone's laughing and doing the task and living their normal life, and I'm in the back room of like a background of the classroom, and I'm having a seizure and people are trying to medically attend me while everybody else is just typing away like nothing is going on. And of course I appreciate everybody, supporting me and being there for me 110,000%. But when you look at everybody else and when you're going through that, it's hard to not see yourself as abnormal. But when it comes down to it, people go through it. Like, you're not alone. As not typical as it usually, as mental illness in general comes in many different forms. Depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma in general. People mainly, they hear those terms and they immediately know what that is. But when it comes to seizures due to mental health, people think like, what is that? It's not something you typically hear about. And it's just something that I feel like people should be more educated about. It's just as dangerous, if not more sometimes, than epileptic seizures. Because similar to epileptic seizures, there's, convulsions sometimes. You could pass out. There's one time people had to catch my head in the back of the classroom so that I didn't crack my head open on something. It's still valid and it's still extremely important. And anybody who tells you that it's not, that's bullshit. because it is. Everybody's problems are relevant. Everybody's problems matter and should be viewed as important. In general, everybody is important. Everybody is special, and everybody, I believe, should be treated equally with that same respect. I hate when people just immediately write you off as, oh, she's doing it for attention, or I used to get called like an attention whore or some shit by these dumbass kids. You, in general, whoa, you struggle, and that's okay. Everybody struggles. But don't, for one split second, let anybody tell you that it's not valid, that you're not valid, and that it doesn't matter, or it's an exaggeration. You are not responsible for your triggers. It is not your fault that somebody said a trigger word, and you got upset. It isn't your fault. It's never your fault. It's not your fault that you walk in a classroom full of people and all you see is a bunch of terrible human beings that used to pick on you. It's not your fault that you have trust issues. People shit on you. It isn't your fault. It will never be your fault. And most importantly, I want you to know that, and I want you to be aware of that. Keep telling yourself every day, and I know it's hard, but every day that you wake up and you're breathing and you're taking steps forward, literally, you are fighter. You are a fighter. You are a survivor. You are doing so well. So well. And you know what? I know it sucks. I see a lot of people all the time, like self-harm survivors, posting like their milestones of not self-harming, self-injury, any of that for like over a year, let's say. And you see people my age who relapse almost every other day, and they get so discouraged. And that's another thing that I want to talk about is when it comes to self-injury, I hear a lot, people are just like, you are making that choice to pick up something to hurt yourself with. No. Sure, we are physically grabbing an item. I could grab this pen and I could write on it. But there is a huge difference between wanting to do something and with depression, your brain literally goes against you and tells you that you deserve to do something negative to yourself. When it comes to writing something down or doing something you like doing, there's a completely different thought process in your brain. When it comes to, that's why they say, find your coping skills, which I hate when therapists say that. But when it comes to doing something that distracts you, doing something that you find interesting, something that makes you happy, that's why they say to do that. That's why they say to do that, because there's a completely different side. This is something I want to do. This is something I don't want to do, but my brain tells me to negatively because I think that I deserve it. And you don't. You deserve to pick up the pen, and you deserve to pick up the book and put down your thoughts. Put down how you feel. You aren't alone. You are not alone, and you will never be alone. Ever. I used to think that I was alone. I used to struggle with loneliness, and still sometimes I do. Oh, shit. But everyone will get through this. Everyone will get through this. And I believe in every single one of you. And if this gets out here and this saves somebody's life, I think that is extremely important. I think that when I grow older, I'll be able to educate more people and be more knowledgeable on the things that I go through. And I want to be able to help as much people as I can that don't understand what they're going through, because nobody does. There isn't a cure. You could take medication. You could do physical therapy. You could do yoga or meditation or DBT.